As I mentioned a few times on the channel before, I have a love for a genre called the really neat action games. First and third person shooters are about accuracy, fast reflexes, and in general, being as stylish as possible. And even though it's a weird pseudo-genre I made up myself, its origins can be traced to Max Payne, a legendary title which celebrates its 21st anniversary this year. And today I want to have a look at both Max Payne 1 and 2 and ask the question, are they still worth playing? This isn't really going to be a standard review or even a retrospective, but rather a quick, brief look at all of its aspects from a modern perspective. From a point of view of someone whose opinion is not altered by nostalgia and played both games for the first time just recently, trying to find out if both of them can still be played and enjoyed. Without further ado, let's start with Max Payne's visuals and art style, as those are the things that tend to age by far the most easily. And on that field, Max Payne actually does pretty well. Obviously, we're talking about the year 2001 here. 3D visuals in gaming were just getting out of their awkward early days, so technical quality of the presentation itself is still pretty poor. It could get much worse, but the character models are blocky, their facial animations limited, and environments, while visually varied and filled with interactables, still mostly on the simple side as far as their complexity and textures go. But it's the art direction that comes with this type of visuals that saves Max Payne from being ugly looking. It has vibes. Max Payne often has the style of an atmospheric horror game. It feels luminary and dreamlike, whether intentionally or more subtly and by chance, thanks to its empty New York streets, apartments and clubs, distant sirens, occasional barking of dogs and snowfall creating an uncanny audio backdrop. It's a very cozy and strange vibe. Games from around the year 2000 have an ideal game to play in the middle of the night. Max Payne 2 then mainly improves its character models with more detail and makes its environments feel more full and interesting, but as far as the visuals go, their cozy effect is the same. The levels now feel more detailed and lively, thanks to their even more increased interactivity and the introduction of friendly NPCs, creating a feeling that's overall more warm, charming and welcoming, compared to the fever-drenched nightmare feel of the first game. Obviously, graphics alone don't make up for a presentation of a game, and both Max Payne 1 and 2 also have a moody and stylish soundtracks, perfectly going along with the comfy, spooky feel I just talked about. Going from action-packed to ambient to horror-like. And then we have the story. Max Payne is one of those games where the plot itself doesn't matter as much compared to the way it's told and characters within it. It's fairly generic on the surface. A cynical cop takes a revenge for the murder of his wife and daughter. That's the entire premise, not much to it. But what makes it actually interesting is the sharp and clever writing, as well as the charming and moody comic book style of its cutscenes, meaning that their presentation aged amazingly. Max himself is a fantastic protagonist, the rest of the characters don't stay far behind, creating an interesting cast. What also really helps is the quality of the pacing and its core setup. A story told within a single night, an investigation with the police on our tail, each mission bringing a new lead or reveal, never allowing you to get bored. All qualities I just mentioned are present in Max Payne 2 as well. Strong writing, likable protagonists and characters, and excellent presentation of its story. But Max Payne 2 also has a couple more weaknesses. Its romance plot, for example, feels rather rushed and maybe even forced in. Mona Sykes herself is an interesting character, but her romance with Max never felt super convincing or even made sense to me. That doesn't mean that it makes the game actively worse, but it just feels odd compared to how strong and tight Max Payne's writing was in almost all of its aspects. Pacing is also slightly worse compared to the first game, as some of its missions feel like filler, but on the other hand, they are also more interesting and varied in general, both visually and gameplay-wise. Oh, gameplay. On one hand, Max Payne's gameplay is still lots of fun. It's slick, responsive and satisfying, both in its mechanics and presentation, having a hectic and smooth feel as you're pulling off headshot after headshot, bullets flying around you. It also has a fun selection of weapons and gameplay scenarios, but mainly, Max Payne 1 was the title to popularize bullet time, creating a setup for exciting and interesting action from the get-go. But as this is basically the first major attempt at this mechanic, it's not perfect. It's never bad, awkward or even non-functional, but it has one specific issue making its use more annoying than necessary. It's way too easy to trigger this really clumsy and sluggish jump dodge, which in most cases just makes you walk towards the enemy, making you defenseless. Another aspect that didn't age gracefully is occasionally the difficulty. Even on normal setting, mechs can take much damage, and getting one-shotted by a grenade or a hidden enemy because of it is never fun. This is partially balanced by the fact that enemies can't take much damage either, and your ability to spam quick save as much as you want, but it's still an issue nevertheless. Max Payne 2 has the same qualities with a bigger weapon selection while solving some of the issues I just mentioned. Its bullet time feels more responsive, and the jump dodge is both more reliable and useful thanks to its increased speed. Difficulty also feels more fair. Max and Mona still die pretty quickly, but also enemy placements and one-hit kill grenades are gone for a much smoother and fair gameplay. So now that we concluded that this game is still enjoyable, there's one more thing we need to talk about when it comes to games of this age: where to get them and how to play them. Thankfully, both Max Payne 1 and 2 are easily available on Steam for cheap, so that's not the issue. Games themselves just need few problems fixed. Number 1, they don't start at all. The issue is caused by a DirectX bug from what I understand, but thankfully its solution is not that complicated. For Max Payne 1, simply get a complete FixPack, which fixes the issue by including a widescreen patch and higher resolution textures. For Max Payne 2, simply changing program's compatibility setting fixed it for me. Max Payne 2 also has a widescreen patch to make the game look better and less stretchy, even though I couldn't use it, as it also blocked shadow play and my ability to get footage for some reason, hence the wide Max. In conclusion, both of these games aged really well and are still worth playing. A few of its small gameplay issues and older looking visuals are not enough to damage the experience, and honestly, in certain aspects they do a better job than Max Payne 3, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, it would help this channel a lot. My name is Batti, take care and I'll see you soon.